Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the EmeraldPlanet and EmeraldPlanet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what EmeraldPlanet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the EmeraldPlanet. Hello, welcome to the EmeraldPlanet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. And again, welcome to the EmeraldPlanet, EmeraldPlanet TV. And we're looking at the country of Colombia. As many of us know, there were years of warfare, just destruction from one end of the country to the other. And actually now in the last 3.5 years, there is and has been true peace. And we have a gentleman who's sitting right beside me. This is Juan Pablo Gomez. He's the president of what's called Colombia in Peace. And welcome to the EmeraldPlanet.
Welcome, Dr. Sam. Thank you for inviting us here. And I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, we have the logo here, this Colombia in Peace. We'll talk about Colfarmer in just a bit, but what is Colombia in Peace, and why is that so significant as a name?
You know, Colombia is one of these unique countries in the world that have been violent more than 500 years ago. Different wars, different events. So our genes are very violent, no? So finally, the last 60 years, we have this kind of war between the guerrilla, the paramilitary, the narcos. And
the government.
The government, of course, protecting everybody. But finally, they get signed the last process of peace with the FARC. That is a very strong guerrilla group. Not the only one, but there used to be 5, no? That is the last one. Very strong, and then we signed, so we are like smelling in the earth that we have more opportunities in the country.
Yeah, I tell you, I think it's fantastic. But Colombia is an amazing country. And something I've learned, you know, by chatting with you is that the Andean mountain range, which we think is a continuous unbroken range, actually splits off
Correct.
into 3 major valleys and ridges.
Correct.
In Colombia only.
Yes.
And that's the only country that has that. So tell us a little bit about the complexity of Colombia, the diversity of Colombia, flora, fauna, but also just the general economic activities and the culture of this country. It's amazing.
You know, as you said, the Andes came to 3 big mountains, no? And then we have the flatlands. So we have all the different climate in the world. We have all the different species in the world. We have 187 different kind of fruits, because the same thing, because different levels. We have the good coffee and a lot of different products, no? And also the folklore in the country is really different, and it's very the variety is very extensive, because all that different climate, different culture, different food make a different kind of people, and the way they speak is different.
Yeah.
No?
Looking at the various states within the country, you call them departments. Also, you have major cities. But it's a very sophisticated society, and this is something you don't really get from the media. But if you go back, I mean, you have major, really internationally renowned universities that have been around for 400 and 500 years.
Correct.
In Colombia.
I
mean, this is just amazing.
Yes. You know, the education was something still very strong in the country since the very beginning. When the Spanish came to the Americas, they established in 3 different regions, you know? In Mexico, in Colombia, and Ecuador. They established all the things, and the universities start in those different regions from the royals, no, the royalty. So they can the Vikings, no, not the Vikings, no, but you know the how you can explain that?
You're talking about conquistadors?
the conquistadors, but you know, the person in charge, like the embassy, let's say the ambassador from the king, came over there, and they have 3 different vireinets.
Yeah, and
very
looking
good.
at it, it's amazing the diversity of have And
Correct.
so looking at what you're doing as far as Colombia and peace, this is one of the things that the people really have been sensing and wanting for a long time.
Yes.
So was it the fact that every side was just worn out from having incessant war, or what was some of the other drivers in all of this?
You know, let's talk about 25 years ago, when you were in the middle of this big conflict, you didn't know where the bullets came, you know? There are 4 different angles, and then you can skip the bullets, because there were 4 different actors that were shooting those bullets. So now is, you know, everybody, okay, let's conscience, let's be realistic. We need to change. We need to do something better for the world and for us also. So then, when they signed the peace,
Now
that's
this
it.
is the most recent piece.
This was
was earlier.
one. This is the first one, no?
Okay.
So with President Santos and the guerrilla FARC, when they signed, no, because they were like in the 1990s, I think so. There was another different process of peace with 3 different guerrillas, but now this is the very last one, so it's like almost there. But when you get it to the country, it's very good to drive anywhere in the country. Before, you have to be scared. You don't know at what time you're going to leave. For example, if you're going in this area, no? If you're going from DC through Manassas, okay, only at 3 o'clock, because then somebody can stop the cars and take you out of the cars. So that was the kind of conflict that we were experimenting 25 years ago, 20 years ago.
But what brought us to where we are right now? Why did they actually, the major parties decide to sign?
Correct.
And it looks like they're holding the peace. Why? What's happened?
Because
What's different?
it's different because the last, you know, we were like exhausted, you know, getting behind about the economy, getting behind about the agriculture, getting behind about the technology, the industrial around the world. So all the war is like all the different countries raising up, and we are like really behind. So finally, hey, we have to start doing something and forget about, let's forgive each other, let's shake hands and delete the past in that kind of area, and then we start over again. It's like a new startup, something like that.
Now, looking at these images that we have here, this is really something about where the people are really coming together. And even in these rallies, I mean, you had different parties, different factions, different interests actually in these rallies doing it together.
Correct.
So what gave them the comfort that, yeah, we've got a peace agreement, we've signed all this, but allowed them really to be able to start communicating with one another, which was never happening in the past?
Because they're finally the new Colombians, let's say. We think and we want to breathe another different experience that is tolerance. Tolerance is for the other countries that are very simple, but for us, no. You are or black or white, but no gray and no different colors. Now we have to start over again. There's many colors, and then we have to respect your opinion. Maybe I'm not agree, but I respect it. So in the past, nobody respect nothing. They shoot you, and that's it. No, now you have everybody respecting the opinions for the other people, but it's tolerance. No?
But when you look at the faces here, I mean, there are, elders among, these people that are marching and saying, peace and all that. But you see many young people that are very much involved and engaged.
Correct.
What gave them the comfort that, yes, all the generations before us, they were at war, all this violence was going on, but we now, in this time, can make a difference? What gave them that comfort that it really could happen?
The thing is not only in Colombia, I think it's around the world. These new generations, because the internet, everybody's connected, everybody know what's happening in the rest of the world. So they have in the DNA all this communication, all this social media, and they know what's going on around the world, and they don't pay more attention to these kind of conflicts. They say, no, we don't have to live in conflict. Let's move it, let's move. So that's very good for the new generation, not only in Colombia, it's around the world. You know, these millennials, these centennials, they are very different, and they have a way to think it's a very comfort way to live.
Yeah, looking at the fact of what's going on there and having all these different groups, work
Correct.
together. Colombia in peace.
Colombia
I mean,
in
you
peace.
actually created that term. A lot of other people involved in it as well. But, as far as Colombia in peace, when you first come up with that concept, what were you thinking? And now these several years later that you're actually living it, how is this Colombia in peace actually coming into reality?
Okay, so Colombian peace born because that was the hope, that was the idea to have one country in peace finally. So, and belongs to all the Colombians and all the people around the world that want to see a country that have been so violent in the world, and they say, okay, they deserve peace, let's help them to have some peace. So, and when we signed the peace, everybody say, oh, this is famous Colombia because finally there are some peace over there. So it's like a union. So everybody start thinking about the Colombian peace. And how is the process? The process has been very good in the different scenarios that especially the farmers, because the farmers they are alone in this in their own lands, and with any opportunity. The difference between us and them is that we have a lot of opportunities to study in the university, to study in the school, to make some jobs or make some companies, whatever. But they are 60, 70 years old and they didn't have any one opportunity in their lives. So the idea is to bring them some we already have. So we receive blessings, and when we bless the people, that's the idea. And with this knowledge and with the technology, we're going to bring all this knowledge and technology to them so they can create many other opportunities to the other people. So over there, they're going to raise their income, they're going to raise the level to live, to have more expectations of life and happiness, because that's very important.
And how does education and the various social services fit into this whole schema? Because this is really the first time that the agriculturalists, most of the farmers, have ever had a chance to really be connected to the government in a positive way instead of just troops, warfare, police, guns, violence.
Correct. The only way to help a society to grow is by education. So we're creating different scenarios of instructions, because it's more that instruct people and educate people so they can learn and they can understand what's going on around them. So that's the idea, to help them to take the information and to empower them with the information and the education.
Yeah, and also too is we're getting ready to show a photograph here as far as the indigenous concerned, but you're really bringing all the people of the society together. And I think I really love this image here as far as indigenous. I've been in 97 countries, and at least 60 of those have very dominant indigenous peoples.
Correct.
And for the first time, really, they're being brought into the mainstream of Colombian society, as I understand it.
Yes. There's very important for us the variety of our cultures in the country. Since 1991, when we created the last constitution, it's very important the diversity of the people, the black people, the Indians, the white, all the different regions. So they have the right to get to the Congress, the Indians, and also to respect their own culture. So they have their own law, their own economic system, a lot of things. So we respect them.
This is Juan Pablo Gomez, President, Colombia in Peace. Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet. Thank you for being with us as we come to you on a week-to-week basis, looking all across the globe, looking for those best practices, the solutions that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we're talking about the country of Colombia, which have been in war literally from way before, the Spanish went into Latin America. And so for thousands of years, warfare has been going on in this country. But now it's at peace, and it's working towards to integrate the agriculturalist and the indigenous into modern day society of what is a very sophisticated, very dynamic, and very positive society. It just needs a chance to have peace to move forward. A gentleman who actually has been working in this for many years and is part of all this process, Juan Pablo Gomez, CEO of Colfarmer, sitting right beside me. And thank you for joining us on EmeraldPlanet TV.
Thank you to you, Dr. Sam.
Looking at the logo we have here, Colfarmer, what does that actually mean? Are we freezing on top of the Andean mountains, or does this have another meaning?
No, the thing is, we want to do, an honor to our farmers, or these Colombian farmers. So we became to Colfarmer. So we came to this name after several months, a lot of people thinking which is going to be the brand.
You said there were like thousands of names that came up before you settled on this one.
Yeah, thousands of names. We were several people talking about this for so many months, like 4 months, and then the last 2 months we get to the little one, and the last 15 days somebody say, why we call farmers? Say, what call farmers? Colombian farmers. Okay, that's good. Everybody approved. Yeah, that's after all these things we get.
It's just like you spend millions of dollars to have a logo for a major company, and it's the first thing or the simplest thing, or somebody at home says, you ought to think about this, and that's what it becomes after all that money and time and effort.
Correct.
But looking at Colombia, tell us a little bit about the difference as far as the various, what you call departments, we call them states, and also the difference between not only the departments, but also the cities themselves, because I would assume these cities reflect much of the surrounding departments or the states in Colombia.
Yes, there are like 4 or 5 major cities in the country. The rest is, towns that's like empty departments, something like that, because all this war affected a lot of people to get out of the lands and get to the cities. So the huge city, of course, is Bogota. They have almost 10 million people. The population is 10 million people. Then we have Medellin and Cali, that is 2.2, 2.5 million people. And then we have Barranquilla and another city that maybe is like 1.5 million or something like that. But the major are those 3 cities, Bogota, Medellin, and Cali.
Now, looking at the map we have in front of us, many of these various departments or states are highlighted in here. Are there many differences between these various states? And we talked about this a little earlier, but how the Andean mountain comes up as a single mountain chain. All of a sudden, it splits off into 3 different branches.
Correct.
Just
how the Andes came to these 3 different mountains that is like the essence of the country is you divide it by 2, the mountains and the flatlands, 53%, 47%. But the important thing about this is the cities are there in the mountains. It's very interesting. Actually, the capital is in the middle of the country, it's not in the coast. So it's something different, and then we have to go later on with what happened with that Spain, the Spanish guy. And the very important thing is that the different of the culture that have all these farmers with all the technology, the old technology that they are farming all these products, but their difficulty for the transportation is really high because the mountains. So the communication is really difficult. So that's the idea, to help them to solve the situation, that communication problem. But also when you create the agro-industry in there, so you create the factories over there, they can have the knowledge over there and they can produce natural and organic products for the rest of the world since there.
Yeah, and this is really very important. So looking at you have a large urban population, and it's growing, and actually grew dramatically during the intensive war years. But how is that now starting to balance out, where the urbanites and the farmers or the agriculturalists are now maybe more interacting because there's much more emphasis on organic food, much more emphasis on growing their own food within the country. And then also you have a tremendous influx of Venezuelans that are coming in and actually residing in these rural areas. So you almost have a resurgence of agriculture from the very old to modern industrialization, now back to what is now being called the real new green society and new green economy.
Correct. So what happened is the people that left the lands, it's very difficult for them to get forget about the city and go back to the land to do the farming. And the good thing for the social situation that have all these Venezuelans coming to Colombia is that we suggest to, like 2 years ago, to the government to start directing these Venezuelan people going to the farms. So something that could be a very big social impact in the cities, now it's a solution in the farms because we don't have people that could do the farming, enough people. So we are brothers. Venezuela and Colombia, we are brothers since a long time ago. So we are working together, helping each other. 50 years ago were the Colombians going to Venezuela, so it's like a
reverse flow.
Yeah, we're returning the favor, so it's like it's good impact. So at that point, we are trying to do the blue economy, or like we say the green economy, in order to instruct them in the new technologies and with the new equipment, with the new knowledge.
And also, too, looking at this photograph right here, it's the new knowledge, the new marketing opportunities, but also there's financing that's actually going into the rural areas where maybe in the past there was very little. Now it's looking like it's more significant because
Correct.
The country can see itself, and it's been declared by the United Nations as maybe one of the 5 most important nations on planet Earth,
Yes.
as far as providing food for the world, not just for Colombia itself or just
For the
even Latin America. So this dynamic, how do you see that again as we branch off from the urban areas back into these agricultural sites?
It's very important for us to understand that it's not only an opportunity, that the FAO said that Colombia is one of these 5 countries that's going to be bringing food to the rest of the country in 20 years.
Rest of the world.
In the world. But it's very important, a good opportunity, but it's more a responsibility. Because let's say, some people die in China or Russia or is dying in 20 years, it's our fault. So we have to take that responsibility
Meaning
very
from
serious.
food
because
insecurity.
because they don't have enough, they don't have food to feed the people. So if the climate is going to change dramatically, how it's doing, and we have to improve those technologies so we can bring all the food to the people that need it in the world.
Now, something that you've been focused on, which is this ancient cane, you and I've been talking a lot about this,
Yes.
and this very special superfood that, in a sense, you've kind of rediscovered back
Correct.
from 600 years ago, this Panela.
The Panela.
Tell us a little bit about Panela, and why do you see this as a way forward for this new green revolution in the country of Colombia?
Panela is
I guess we need to say, what is Panela first, and then why
Correct,
is it important?
and then we go
Let's
there.
do that.
Okay, Panela is a product, it's an ancient cane. Since 500 years ago, almost, 20 years is going to be 500 years, the sugar cane came to Colombia. And then we start processing, in that moment, the Indians, and we make the Panela. So we squeeze the cane, we get the juice, we filter it, and then we start boiling, and we have this kind of brick, or a bowl or something like that, and then we boil it with water, and then you have this like a tea, or like a drink, like a nice drink. Could be hot, could be cold. So it's very good for the people. It's healthy because, of course, it's a superfood. Have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and carbohydrates. So it's a superfood. So it's the second, super food that is a sweetener, as the honey. But we can the honey with the bees. There's not enough production for the rest of the world, but with cane, we can have enough production for the world.
Now, this ancient cane, right?
The ancient cane, because it's an ancient cane. Why is it an ancient cane? Because, the Panela is more than 2,600 years ago. They discovered over there in Asia, So, and they were doing this production of the Panela, as an ancient cane, as an ancient product, and it's very healthy. But the same will happen with almost all the food. People forgot about the essential, and then we started doing business. So they forgot about something, and we have a lot of products as a sweeteners, but sometimes some of them are
empty calories and
empty calories, empty vitamins,
obesity and all that.
So the idea is to change, and now we are taking care about our bodies, our health. So it's something that's going to enrich your body.
Now, looking at the farmers here, we've had some various photographs of the farmers in these various seminars. So why is it so important, this education, as far as the farmers are concerned? And they look very happy, they're well dressed, and very attentive to what's going on. So tell us a little bit about the metamorphosis, the change from what they were earning before, what they're now earning with the Panela. This is a huge change.
Correct. So before, a regular farmer in Colombia 4 or 5 years ago, and still in some places today, they have $600 income per year.
Yeah, that's 600 US dollars.
US dollars per year. So it's really difficult to survive. And so what we don't want is that they take again the gun machine or take care about some kind of crops that you don't have to be, illegal crops.
In other words, the drugs.
So that the drugs. So we say, okay, we can do this with the Panela. That is a very Colombian product. It's more Colombian than the coffee. Everybody know coffee. You're going to know about Panela because coffee is only 200 years in Colombia. Panela is 500 years. So now they're having an income per month around $300. So $600 a year, now it's $300 a month.
Yeah, I mean, that is amazing transformation, and that's a huge change because now all of a sudden they can send their kids to school, they can take care of their health problems.
Correct.
They're actually saving, they can build their houses faster, they can gather more land in order to
and
produce
real houses.
Real houses, but also is that they're actually helping now to protect the environment.
Correct, because that's very important. When you train them, when you instruct them, it's not like we're doing this and I don't care about the environment. No, it's very important that it's a circular economy, blue economy, sustainable economy.
Yeah, I tell you, it's absolutely fantastic. Perhaps we're running out of time. We're going to show a few more of these photographs here as far as education is concerned and really developing these areas. But looking at the next 5, 10, or 15 years, where do you see Colfarmer going? And you got about 15 seconds.
Colfarmer is going to be one of these names that everybody's going to recognize as a company that's going to bring to your body real food.
And that's absolutely fantastic. Juan Pablo Gomez, CEO of Colfarmer from the country of Colombia. And thank you for being with us as we're looking around the globe for these best practices, the solutions, as we create the Emerald Planet. As you know, week to week, we're looking around the globe for those solutions, what we call the best of the best practices. And many of these actually can be technologies, it can be services, can be products, processes, but more than that, it's usually the people that are making a difference. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me. This is Juan Pablo Gomez, CEO of Colfarmer. And he's one of those gentlemen from Colombia, been in the United States for a few years, but really his heart is back in Colombia, in Latin America. And so the whole thing is how do you take the bulk of the population that live in the rural areas, bring them together with the urbanites, mutually benefit each other, and raise, as they say, all boats as far as the economy, the environment, and community development. This young man sitting right beside me is actually doing that. And he's doing it with something that's called Panela, which I'd never heard of before until I was at the Embassy of Colombia. And they said, you need to go over and talk to this gentleman because he really is himself a best practice. This is the embassy. That's pretty high honor, I would say, and all that. So tell us a little bit about Panela as a superfood. Mm-hmm. What is a superfood? We need to define all these terms.
Correct.
And then why is this Colombia and the world having a similar vision as we're moving through the 21st century as far as food, farmers, the urbanites, and protecting the environment?
Okay. The first thing is Panela is a superfood because it's a sweetener, and as a sweetener have protein, minerals, vitamins, antioxidants. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea to have a superfood because it enriches your body. It's not only like something here, some vitamins here. No, they have maybe it's not the highest vitamins as another different products, but have enough to be a sweetener. Is the with the honey? I think is the only two sweeteners that have all that powerful to your body, no?
Yeah, and an amazing thing about it, it has very complex B vitamins.
Correct.
which was quite interesting when I
yes.
looked at all the research that was done by the FDA and the USDA. Is that the complexity as far as the vitamins and minerals and the antioxidants? It's quite impressive.
And also the big complex of B and also the C, because when you have a cold in Colombia, everybody drink agua de panela, so water of panela, hot with lemon. So it's very high vitamin C, getting your body to get out of the cold.
Yeah.
No?
And I've understand that many people in Colombia, but also other countries that have access to it.
Correct.
It's almost like an elixir as far as drink this every morning. Like every morning I get up and I have, about 25 to 30 ounces of water and 2 tablespoons of vinegar. They're drinking something it's quite sweet, but actually it's still
Correct.
good for you. So looking at Panela as a superfood, why are you using that as a springboard for the future as far as the farmers in Colombia? And then that in turn goes back to the urbanites.
Because everybody start needing the panela as a sweetener and as a drink, no? So the demand of the product is going to be higher. But the difference with us and the other people is that we are improving the BPA and the BPM. That is the better practice in agriculture, better practice in manufacture.
Right.
So they take care about a lot of things. We have to be organized and very professional, because I don't want them to be paneleros like a regular farmer. No, I want to be a professional of panela. That's it.
And looking at these gentlemen here, you're saying, okay, they look like farmers you see all around the world and all that. But the whole thing about it is that you're putting them into classes regardless of their age. So you're giving them education. You're trying to educate the families.
Correct.
And have the children in school and not having to go out and then be in the fields.
Correct.
But you have this rotation so that they actually, instead of just having once or twice in a year, they have their earnings, which were very low. Now you're spreading it out, so actually they have an income for 12 months of the year. Tell us a little bit about, we're seeing something here, but we're not really seeing the total picture either.
Okay.
This is the best practice.
Yeah, the best practice is that the panela could be harvested between 9 through 16 months or maybe 18 months. It depends on the altitude, no? So the idea, we teach them that it's better to have income as a regular basis once a month. So we program the production of the harvest on the panela once a month. So they have a continued income. And also, talking about the futures in a harvest, so they have the same price all the time. So we pay them really good.
So it's
they have
steady
established.
income.
So when they have established, you can establish a life. But when they pay the panela 600 pesos, and then 2 weeks later they pay 2,000 pesos, and then 100 pesos, and then 5,000 pesos, you don't know what's going on in your life. No, so the idea is that they program and they can have their car, the house, do the university, the kids, and many things, because you can program.
And looking at this as this is processed and it goes in, you're looking specifically at the Panela. You have these 400 families,
Correct.
Which is about 2,400 different farming people that are dependent on this land. But when it goes in, again, looking at the cane that we're looking at right here, what is different about the Panela cane that it's organic, and the fact is you're removing the chemical fertilizers, the insecticides and pesticides?
Correct.
One, you've lowered their costs, but what are some of the other benefits?
There are very good benefits, because when you do organics, or when you are taking out of these chemicals or the fertilizers and the pesticides, that is not healthy, because what you eat, no? So if you eat these kind of things, it's gonna be a problem for you. So we want everybody to be healthy. It's gonna be healthy because you have a healthy food. So we're pushing them to harvest in that way. When you harvest in that way, they're gonna have better income, because everybody knows that when you have organic food, you pay more for that because it's real food. So that's something that we are moving over there. with the families, with all the people. When you talk about the all 400 families, also we have in the 3 different mountains all these families. One in San Jose de Pare, the other one in Mariquita,
Yeah, these
the
are,
other
that's
one over there.
interesting thing about this. You've already done this, and we usually recommend this, and you're already doing it, to have, you know, these complementary national model programs.
Correct.
So you can test, you know, various types of Panela stalks and processing, and like you're talking about the rotation of, you know, 12 or up to 16 months harvesting and all that. It's just really fascinating what you're doing. But also you went, so this is all vertically integrated. So it's
Correct.
not only you're doing it with the farmers and working with them, but also you have your own manufacturing and processing center.
Correct. We have the 3 manufacturing processes, and we are going to build one package process, one package like a center that's going to be in Santa Marta in the north of in the Atlantic coast to the coast, Atlantic coast. So all the Panela is going to be there. We're going to package it. We're going to export to different countries. And the good thing about all these also is because we're going to integrate all the country in this. We have, as I told you, 400 families because this is the testing, but we expect to have around 3,000 families in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge number because it's about 6 members per family.
Correct.
So you're saying you have about 3,000, you know, times 6. So you're getting up to, you know, big numbers as far as, you know,
Correct.
36,000. But looking at the technology you're using, you're trying to use the latest technologies, not just something that's been there for the last
Correct.
some 100 years as far as just regular sugarcane is concerned. You really want high speed, but also high quality, correct?
Correct. Because the better practice in agriculture and manufacture get the best product. The best product, and you put all the technology there. Don't make sense if you want to go through, let's say, to Springfield, no? And you start
You're
walking.
talking about Springfield, Virginia.
Springfield, Virginia.
Yeah.
So you're going walking.
This
or
is a
you're
worldwide program, so you got to define
okay.
Springfield.
So you're gonna go to a, let's say, 50 miles place, and you go walking. And I say, why you don't take a car? Oh, there's a car? I didn't know. Okay, so you bring the car, and then you take the car, and in less than an hour you're gonna be there. No? So that's the idea with the Panela, with all the products. You bring the last technology. We don't want it there to go what it was 50 years, 40 years, 50. No. Today, you have to learn what is the new technology.
And also, too, you were telling me about the big difference. We've actually got 2 comparisons right here. You have the older style, maybe it lasts 50, 75 years. And on the right side, this is the new high speed, and
Correct.
it does what as far as a Panela?
This is very important in the mill because as a regular basis, when you squeeze the cane, that mill is squeezed like the old, you know, they were using in the last 50 years. They squeeze like 20% of the juice. With the oldest with the newest technology, you can extract like a 65-70% of the juice. So
And now you're going to
can
keep progressing that.
and we're gonna progress to have the 95%. So it's like they're gonna double and triple income with that, but also doing with organic and with some kind of products, they're gonna increase the production. So, for example, the regular farmer today, they have, let's say, 10,000 kilos of Panela. But with the new technology, with all the things, they're gonna have like a 30,000 kilos of Panela. So you're gonna triple income.
And this is the same land mass?
In the
and
same
actually
land, all the
using
things.
less inputs,
with less.
less
And the
organic
idea
materials.
is to have everything as sustainable. So everything is going to be circularized. They're going to
circle economy.
Circle economy, the blue economy to have it. So they're going to receive more income because they're going to produce also energy in some kind of in some different way. So we want to integrate them with the latest technologies.
So they're taking the crushed stalks of the Panela, and
Correct.
that's what's going back. Actually, you got 2 tracks. One is produce energy, and the other is the organic root stimulant that's going out. But looking at this plant, and we're just about running out of time, this is really impressive, the type of equipment that you have here,
Correct.
and this looks like the latest.
You know, in the normal time that you go to any trapiche over there in Colombia, they have 5 different pots with 5 different temperatures, and moving here and moving there and moving here. Now you only have one tacho, we call tacho, one tacho, and then you move the bottom. You need butter, and that's it. So it's technology. It's simple technology. And of course, it's very important to have the laboratory is going to be there because we're going to make all the analysis.
That's what we're seeing right here is to test everything and make sure it meets, as you said, WHO or world standards, correct?
Everything. Yeah, everything had to be analyzed. When the juice came from the fields, when it's processed, and when it get out, everything had to be tested.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing here. This is absolutely fantastic. And there's a panela. It looks like gold, tastes a little like honey, a little nutty. What do you see for the expansion? You got about 5 seconds. What do you see for the growth? Gotta be
we
quick.
ask all of you to look for our product because the only way to take them out of the poverty is you consuming the product.
Okay, that's Juan Pablo Gomez, CEO, Colfarmer, as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet. Thank you again for being with us. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of EmeraldPlanet, EmeraldPlanet TV. Week to week, we come to you bringing you the best practices, the solutions from around the globe. We're looking at the country of Colombia in Latin America and how it's making a tremendous impact within its rural populations now that it is Colombia in peace, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But the whole thing about it, it is real peace, and it's allowing the urbanites and the rural populations for the first time to really freely interact with each other, move back and forth, have education, have social welfare services, health care, all the things that you need in modern society. Colombia is moving into that in a very big and very rapid fashion. And one of the reasons this gentleman sitting right beside me, this is Juan Pablo Gomez, he's the president of what's called Colombia in Peace. And you can see the logo there, and also the corollary to that is Colfarmer, and that's really the nonprofit, the for-profit, all working together to help the rural areas, but also the rapidly expanding urban populations in Colombia. And Juan Pablo, thank you for being on the EmeraldPlanet TV.
Thank you, Susan, to invite us here.
Now, we've talked before about Colombia in peace, why that? Now we're talking, and we did talk about Colfarmer, but together, how do these fit hand in glove together? And again, how do they fit together as far as the urbanites and the rural populations?
You know, it's very important to have some Colombian Peace as a nonprofit because it's more that the social part, you know, the social movement, the integration about all the people. We don't believe that the farmers and the cities are supposed to be apart, supposed to be integrated, supposed to be friends, because it's like all the time look like we are kind of discrimination between I'm in the city, you are in the land, but the people in the land feed us. So have to be working together because at the very end, everybody is a human being. So we have to be treated as a human being. So the idea from Colombian Peace is to work with the farmers to make agro-industrial in a blue economy there is to raise the dignity first as a human being.
Yeah, and this is really interesting, and this is really happening globally, so it's not just in Colombia, but because it was very stilted in a way because of the incessant warfare was going on, you know, between, in essence, really between the urban areas and the rural areas. Because, you know, where the guerrillas were based and the paramilitaries were mostly in the rural areas. And then you had this kind of walled cities that existed somewhere, you know, in this vast, green, beautiful country. But now what you're doing is bringing those together. But when you look at the country, and we've seen this map before, but I think this map now really fits our dialogue and the conversation because you have about 5 major cities.
Correct.
And they're spread across the country. And then you have these various departments, which are states like we have in the United States. So how do you see these now fitting together instead of kind of these separate societies in the same country is that they're actually now meshing together when you do have Colombia in peace.
Thanks for the question, because it's a good opportunity to express to everybody that the different regions, the different kind of people, the different ethnicity is getting together, as I told you before, as the responsibility to feed the world. No, when you say that the 5 cities are in the country, no, the 5 cities are in 47% of the country, that is in the mountains, but the flatlands, that is the side that is beside Venezuela and Brazil and Peru, that is the Amazon and the Orinoquia area, there's almost nobody there. No? So the idea is to start integrating all the country, to connect all the country with all the latest technologies in order to produce food in a very good way, industrial way, but taking care of the environment, taking care of the BPAs and the BPMs. And of course, everything have to be organic food.
Yeah, and we're looking at, we've seen these two gentlemen before, you know, working on the land. Of course, this goes back to this ancient cane, the Panela and all that. And you're saying, what is new about these guys out there with machete, you know, really cutting these fields? But really, they're running in parallel with what we're seeing right here, because this is in the same industry in Panela, which you have, you know, the traditional, but you're educating, and they're now learning new ways. I think you shared they were making $600-700 a year U.S.
Correct.
Now they're doing about $300 a month.
A month, correct.
So how does that relate then to all this modern processing that we're looking at right here? How do you get from that machete and the cane to looking at this advanced technology from the world?
You know, the machete and the cane have to continue in most of the country, because then you have to cut the cane, no? And it's in the mountains, so you cannot use a big machine over there. But they know that they have the opportunity to get to that kind of income if they study. But of course, if you are too old, you say, I'm not gonna get there. But guess what? My kids are gonna get there. My grandsons are gonna get there. So hopefully they call them to get from the cities, to go over there, and to start learning and to be a professional of panela. Because, you know, as a regular basis, a panelero, no, he seed, he put the water, the fertilizer, he cut, he transported, he squeezed, he made it, and he go and sell the product. But that's very, very poor economic system. So as a professional, everybody have to do something. Be a professional in some part. So you're gonna do more production.
So the agriculturalist is becoming a profession.
A profession.
Just like we have mostly in the United States. And then also you just have like this, almost looks like a laboratory here in the processing of the panela, this new gold, if we can have a double descriptor of that. And it's really, it's the same product.
Yes.
It's just a different transformation of that.
Different transformation, and accomplishing all the international regulations. That's the most important. We have spending almost 4 years with all this, teaching them.
You said experimenting.
Experimenting and teaching the people, no? Forming the people, instructing the people with Panela, you know, the Federation of Paneleros of Colombia.
Right.
That is, we call Fede Panela as a nickname. So with Fede Panela, we are working together in order to people to get a professional of Panela.
Now, as far as this profession, I'm going to leave this photograph up, and then we're going to go to the nutritional aspects of the panela and looking at, again, the professionalization of this whole process.
Correct.
It's becoming a vertical integrated system.
Correct.
And so you have the land and the inputs, which is now becoming virtually all organic.
Correct.
And then all the way to the financing and everything in between, and the marketing and all that. So when you're looking at it that way, how are you multiplying the best practices so that we are increasing the economics, we're protecting the environment, and yet we're bringing economic development? All three of those through one product.
It's a good opportunity to have an example to show to the people how to do a sustainable product that is going to...
So this is really, we're emphasizing sustainability now.
Yes.
Okay.
Have to be, because don't make sense doing something to get money and destroy our world. Don't make sense, or destroy another people. No, we have to be together and to build a new society, and that's the idea to have in Colombia. It's a good opportunity to build the new country, the new Colombians. So people are gonna start thinking about, oh, Colombia is coffee and panela. And then you mix it together, you put some water and some milk, it's gonna be delicious.
Yeah. Now looking at the nutritional values of this, in this chart here, you have the comparison between regular either white or brown sugar with the panela. Of
Correct.
course, there's absolutely no comparison. But where did these numbers come from? I understand you're working with a number of universities within Colombia, but also in the United States.
Correct.
On all of this.
In Colombia, we're working with a national university, the University of El Valle, different of the Atlantic, different universities. And in the United States, we did it with Harvard, with the MIT, and now we are working with Georgetown and George Washington universities.
Yeah,
So
I mean, these are very, very
tested.
prestigious universities.
Because that's the way it's supposed to be. If we make an analysis every time, and when we show the analysis and they get over there and we bring the product and they make the analysis, and the analysis from Colombia for all the different universities and the different universities and entities, it's not only universities, but the FDA, the USDA did it, and it's the same, it means that we learned something.
Yeah, and this is very important. But looking at the Panela itself, how is this going to fuel the new agricultural, the new green economy in these rural areas? Is this something that's very valuable, and you're going to expand this to, literally tens of thousands of people?
Yes, because everybody's going to start asking for panela around the world. A lot of people, with these healthy things. So we have to produce the product to them. So as I told you, people is gonna know about Colombia because the coffee and also because the panela. Because everybody start asking, because the panela you can use it not only as a sweetener, but to produce some cookies, bread, cakes, beverage, a lot of things. You can do with the panela. Finally is the juice of it's cane juice, no? The hydrate. So it's like you can use for many applications.
This looks like almost like a honey. But
It's
yet
like a honey.
it's a granulated, I've had some of this, again, through the Embassy of Colombia. But taking the cane, squeezing it, and turning it into this particular product, how many different steps, how many different technologies have you now added to this process? Because before, most of this was done in the country. People had their steel pots. They were doing open fire. I mean, I've seen some of that as I travel the world. It's amazing transformation.
When we go to 200 years ago, 100 years ago, the mill was this mule or this cow going around in circles and circles, and they were squeezing. In that moment, the squeeze of the cane was like a 7%, maybe 10%. Now, like 180 years ago, it came the mechanical mills, but it's not enough pressure because, of course, it's different technology. So that we can 20, 25, maybe 30%. But now with the new technologies, it's going to be more. So that's the idea. When you have more technology, more application, more people studying, and more people doing researching, so when then the benefit is for all the society because we have a better products.
Yeah, well, I tell you, it's absolutely amazing what you're doing as far as the education, expanding this across the society, involving everyone, but increasing the education.
Correct.
So what do you see as far as where this is all going the next 5, 10, or 15 years? We got to be quick. We're almost out of time. And how Colombia and how the world is going to benefit.
Okay, so Colombia is going to be different, and the world is going to be different because everybody's going to be sweet, healthy sweetness. So, and also, everybody's going to be happy to having some piece of panela in his mouth. That's very important. And the people is going to have a better, healthy, and a very good energy to go work and go study.
Fantastic. Juan Pablo Gomez, Colombian Peace, as we create the Emerald Planet.